like to welcome you to this edition of EMU Today. We are so pleased that you're able to join us. I want you to sit back and relax and enjoy the conversation about the latest happenings at Eastern Michigan University. And my name is Mark Essley, and I'm your host. And I'm so pleased to be welcomed in this very first segment by Dr. Jean Rowan, and she's a program director of the Clinical Research Administration program, which was just ranked the number three program of its kind in the United States and tops in the great state of Michigan. Dr. Rowan, thank you very much for joining me. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you for inviting me.
It's so good to have you. And as we get started, to talk to us about your responsibilities and the program that we're going to be unpacking, give us an overview of the program we'll be talking about today as well.
Okay, so the Clinical Research Admin program is a master's, a graduate program at Eastern. It's been in existence since the mid-90s. It was one of the first programs. And I joined about 5 years ago, and now I'm the program director. We've actually been ranked nationally every year for the last 5 years. So this award has joined a series of awards before, so we're very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely should be very proud of it. Congratulations. And I was looking forward to this conversation because you're going to be educating me as well as the viewers tuning in. So let's talk about the Clinical Research Administration graduate program. Exactly what is it, and what are the students focused on as they go through this whole education process in a specific area?
Yes, so clinical research is the study of, it's a health science subject that's a study of disease in humans. And clinical research administration is the group of people and the activities that really establish clinical research studies and manage them. The vast number of clinical research studies done are investigating disease in humans, and they study things like diagnosis and new treatments such as drugs and biologics, vaccines, diagnostics, and medical devices. So in the program, we try to introduce the students to this broad area by teaching them a little bit about all of those things. Obviously, there's a lot of rules and regulations, a lot of administrative topics, but the bottom line is we want our students to be able to go out and to work within teams who run clinical trials. It's been a very exciting year for us with the development of vaccines, and so in the last year we've been really living the headlines in the program. Teaching students how vaccines are developed, as well as other drugs and devices.
Yeah, and I'm going to unpack that if I can for a second. Obviously, the last year, everyone knows that we're talking about COVID-19 and certainly the rollout of various vaccines. And we hope people are thinking about getting vaccinated so we can get a sense of normalcy back in our lives. But talk about, for example, that experience and how that's been kind of translated into the classroom for the students. So here we are, a real life example. Talk to those checking us out today via television and social media platforms. Tell us what that experience has been like for the last 12 months.
So the program is a cohort program. The students all start together and run through the program. It takes about 5 semesters, a year and a half. They start with an introduction to drug development. And so we really talked through how we get a drug from an idea through to actually being available. And we were obviously able to use a vaccine as a real example this year. The students then study clinical research administration, where they're really looking into aspects of clinical research ethics, how to put a study together, actually how to write that study design, and how to recruit research subjects, and how to do informed consent, and how to get a study approved by an ethics committee. All of these things we relate back to the regulations and rules and laws that obviously it's a highly regulated area, as you might imagine. You know, the protection of the research subject, the integrity of the research data is critical.
Yeah. And as we talk about these clinical trials and the studying and things like that, as they go through the program, I'm sure that they're in demand as it relates to jobs. Talk about the types of jobs that are out there, the level of demand and the potential, income in that space after they complete this program.
So there is a national chronic shortage of workers in the clinical research enterprise. So there are lots of jobs available, not just locally, but nationally. And our students come from a different variety of backgrounds. Some come straight out of a bachelor's program and they move into a master's. They're motivated by an interest in treating disease, clinical research. And some are working in the field already and are looking to expand their knowledge, or perhaps even to look at promotion. And others are people who have perhaps been working in an allied healthcare field or even an entirely different field who want to move over into the field. And our job is to make the program accessible and at the same time give the students both a full knowledge and a practical base that allows them to apply for jobs. It's not unusual for the students to change jobs or actually apply for jobs in the field during the program. Two key fields that they go into. One would be an actual clinical research administrator, so managing and supporting a clinical trial, perhaps in a doctor's office, perhaps in an academic medical research center, and or hospitals. And then there are a group of, there's jobs that are called clinical research associates. All of the clinical trials are monitored by independent groups or by the sponsors who are funding the studies, or by agencies such as the FDA. And clinical research associates are those who are trained to go and inspect and audit and supervise the running of clinical trials in the doctor's offices.
And we said at the top of this interview that Eastern Michigan University ranked third in the country and tops in the state of Michigan. What makes this program so successful? What makes it unique, different relative to other programs across the state and as well as across the country? In other words, why is it ranked so high at this point?
Thank you. Well, we've been recognized for several different factors. Eastern Michigan University is very welcoming to students from all walks of life. We can accommodate in the program those who are working full-time. We hold classes in the evenings. We are flexible in terms of the timeline. The program can be done, as I mentioned, in 5 semesters, but students can take a slower pathway if they need to. Some students leave and come back, and we make that happen. The faculty, I don't want to, toot my own horn, so to speak. We have been recognized as being very experienced in the field. So I have a pharmaceutical drug development, clinical research background, and other colleagues have regulatory affairs backgrounds. We also have a series of guest lecturers who come in who are actively working in all different parts of the clinical research enterprise. So we try to keep very up to date. We try to be very student focused. Every student matters to us, and we work with individual students to get them through. We support them when they are applying for jobs. We're able to look at resumes. We're able to help them position themselves and present themselves well, and we give them a vocabulary that they can use that shows experience. So the program is well suited to both expand knowledge and to prepare students for access into the field of clinical research, where there are plenty of jobs.
And I guess my question in terms of Michigan, how many programs are there across the state? Any idea? Does every university have one, or is it just a select number? I know we have 15, I believe 15 state-supported universities amongst others, but how many of those do you know also offer this graduate program for students?
So I don't have a number for you. It tends to be universities that have a medical center. And so University of Michigan would be one, for instance. We place our students in different areas to do clinical preceptorships. So we have relationships with Henry Ford, and we have relationships with Carmonos, McLaren, University of Michigan, St. Joe's, IHA, and a number of others. So no, I'm afraid I don't have a number.
That's okay.
In Michigan, that's.
But it does beg the question. You have relationships with the various hospital systems. What percentage of the students who graduate will actually land a job in that field? Is it 90%? Is it 80%? What is the graduation rate in terms of graduating into an opportunity postgraduate?
So a few years ago, we did a formal measurement and ended up with 70% plus of the students were actually working in the field. And this was students who'd recently graduated and students who were several years out. My experience anecdotally over the last 2-3 years has been that the vast majority, I mean, we're talking well above 75%, are working in the field.
Awesome. And what I love what you said too, Dr. Rowan, is that the students are experiencing or getting practical experience in the classroom through the professors. And I think that's one of Eastern's clearly teaching strengths, is that we have a lot of people who have that practical experience in addition to the academic experience. And clearly that is a plus for this program, that they can come in and learn from subject matter experts and get guest speakers in that space. And I'm sure they appreciate that opportunity as well.
So that's one of our strengths for sure. And we really do try to play on it. We try to keep current ourselves so that we're always bringing the latest information to the classroom. And, it is a pleasure to be able to take the experience that we have as faculty have gained over the years and be able to share it with those who are just getting started in their field.
And lastly, the last 30 seconds or so, what do you see the future of the program over the next few years?
Well, I would like to grow the program, and that would be a good thing for all involved. As I said, and you've mentioned, there's plenty of jobs in the field that are available. I think we have to be able to potentially go online at some point to be able to reach outside of the local area while still keeping integrated and being able to bring students in locally, because we are well known locally.
Well, for those of you tuning in, we have a website listed at the bottom of the screen. Check out the website. Please go get more information about this outstanding program. Dr. Rowan, congratulations on leading this outstanding graduate program at Eastern Michigan University. We thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And even though we've been having some challenging times, Eastern's been making some investments across many buildings across the great campus in Ypsilanti. And so we have a video we want to share with you that just shows you the newly renovated Seal Hall and the Rec IMC facility as well. like to welcome you back to EMU Today, and I hope you had a chance to enjoy the great things happening around the campus, the newly renovated Seal Hall, and the Rec IM facility as well. All right, we're going to continue the conversation about another great program that's taking place at EMU. I'm so pleased to welcome Mr. Michael Wise. He's a Lieutenant Colonel, is retired from the U.S. Army, Assistant Director of Military and Veteran Services, and for the Lieutenant Colonel Charles S. Kettle's Military and Veteran Services Resource Center. He's going to explain all that to us in a second. Michael, thank you very much for joining me. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you. And let's just start with the very basics about you before we jump into the program and the discussion. How long have you been at Eastern? And as my understanding, you're retired Lieutenant Colonel. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Army sent me to Eastern Michigan in 2010 to be the professor for the ROTC program. And subsequently, when I retired from the military, I was able to secure some employment here at Eastern, which I was very grateful for. And in 2014, I was hired into the Veteran Services position. So I feel really welcome, and I feel very, very much at home here at Eastern Michigan.
Well, we definitely want to thank you for your service. And we also want to thank all the veterans who certainly have served our great country. And the purpose of this conversation, we have many veterans coming back into the educational environment, the educational experience. Talk about that experience as a veteran coming back into the university environment that many of our students are currently going through as they enter back into the university setting.
Well, I like to kind of put it as, a lot of our veterans, the last time they went to school was high school. And so when they get to the college environment, some of them might be a little bit anxious about coming back into a university setting, being in a classroom with students that are much younger than them.
Yeah.
But Eastern has, over the years, what I have seen Eastern do very well in this regard is just the support that it gets, that the veterans get from the top on down, across the administration and with our staff and faculty. I think a lot of it has to do with the 52-year-old program I shouldn't say 52-year-old, the 69-year-old relationship we have with Army ROTC, mm-hmm. and the Eagle Battalion here on campus. That lends itself to a very military environment. There's military in the classrooms, and I think that really helps our veterans when they come back, as they don't feel like they're totally singled out. Because most people don't really know the difference between a cadet or someone in uniform, if they're in the classroom or a veteran. So I think our veterans get a very good experience in the classroom, despite some of their anxieties coming back from combat tours.
Absolutely. And for the fourth consecutive year, Eastern Michigan has been named one of the most military and veteran-friendly universities in the country, according to the most recently released rankings by the Military Friendly. You kind of touched on it, and we're number one in the state of Michigan. You kind of touched on it. Expound on what makes the program so special. Why are we typically ranked so high as a military-friendly university, if you will, for veterans coming back into this environment?
It's across the board. When we do the survey that gains us these rankings, we've moved up the charts, since we first started doing the surveys. And but what the questions that are asked in the surveys are across the board. They're from admissions to financial aid to, do you have a veteran center? Do you have a veteran-friendly? Do you have a veterans website? Do you have a place where veterans can congregate and study and feel at home? And we're yes to all those questions. And so we're very excited to see, when we have moved up in rank, that we compare to other universities around the United States, and we're actually exceeding the standards for, you know, what GI jobs and military friendly means. And so a lot of that's from our vet center. A lot of that is from a grant that we acquired back in 2015, which brought us more staff, which makes it increased our capabilities for having a focus group of students that we really work to help get their enrollments every semester, make sure they're taking the right classes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times students will be shooting in the dark as to what they should be taking each semester to make sure that they can graduate within a 4-year time period. We help them do that every semester, and we make sure that they know when registration is. We have priority registration for them, which is one of the things that makes us military friendly, is that priority registration that the registrar gives us. So, you know, all in all, and I like to say this, it's from the top down. It's not from our office out. That we have such a military friendly campus. It's really has a lot to do with the administration, our relationships with people on campus, the faculty and the staff, and how they treat our veterans, and how we embrace them when they come to campus.
Sure. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing you say is it's a top-down approach in terms of support, but it's also encouraging to hear that you get engagement from not just the population at large, but you're engaging those veterans as well as part of the experience, so they feel like they're part of the process. And then coming back into this environment makes them feel that much more comfortable and user friendly. Is that a fair is that a fair statement?
Very good. Yes.
Okay. I'm curious because as I was preparing for this discussion, the name, and I think you know, the Lieutenant Colonel Charles S. Kettles. Tell me about your relationship with him. I understand there's a story behind the story here.
Yeah, Charlie and I we became friends through the university, and he invited me over to his house a couple of times and I got to know him on a personal level. Just a remarkable person. I admired the way he took care of his spouse. Yeah, they were a little older when I met them, but just wherever he went, she tried to go, and he was always right there by her side. But Charlie, of course, he passed away a couple years ago, but we were very fortunate to know him in his later years, and
Sure.
so we named our office after him because of the heroic deeds that he did in Vietnam, and what he meant to the university as well. He also developed the aviation management program here, and so that was one of his legacy contributions to the university.
For those of you tuning in, let me clarify. It's the Lieutenant Colonel Charles S. Kettles Military and Veteran Services Resource Center. So I want to make sure we made that distinction, make that connection. So again, you're tuning in and you want to find out, what are we talking about? That's what we're talking about, his relationship with someone Mike Wise, his relationship with him. And you hear how special that relationship was, and certainly the impact that Lieutenant Colonel Kettles had on the university as well. But back to the students in this program, after they re-engage with Eastern, they graduate. Do they generally land positions in their field of study, or are they kind of, grappling with being challenged? Kind of talk to us about that relationship of getting re-engaged after they graduate from the collegiate environment.
Well, what we do is through the grant program, we're coaching them to try to work within their fields while they're studying here. So if they're going to get an internship, let's have an internship in something that's completely related to what you're studying, versus, a lot of times a student will want to get a job just down at Jimmy John's, but that's great for money, but we want to try to get them working in their field, which translates very well with the engineering type degrees, because we can work with engineering companies that are seeking students of that nature. And the same with the business school. It's much easier to find jobs for those students that have studied in their fields and actually have gotten internships in their fields. It's easier to find placement for them following graduation. Some of our I guess you could call it softer majors like history. Those become a little more difficult. We have to use our imagination to find work that's related to history or to philosophy or to literature outside of maybe a teaching role or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But overall, our students we're empowering them and encouraging them to stay focused on why they're here. Are you here just to draw your benefits from the military, or are you here to actually point to a direction that's going to gain you suitable employment following graduation? Really, from start to finish, from admission to employment, that's where we really try to focus, and we build those relationships with those students through our office and through the comfort of our office.
Got it. And I just don't know this, so excuse my naivety here. A lot of the students who come back, is the education paid for by the military, or
I would say that about 95% of our returning veterans who are coming back from overseas or from their first duty assignments or from all different angles and in all different branches of the service. So we're working with Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and we've got every branch represented, and a lot of National Guard soldiers who some of them are currently deployed and still in Washington, D.C. But what we find is that as we bring them back into the fold, a good 95% of our veterans are using VA benefits to fund their college education, and that's a huge asset to the university.
Sure.
And it also it's a great benefit that our government gives our veterans those funds to further their education.
But that's well deserved. And as we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to get the website for people to go to get more information about this outstanding program.
Yeah, our website is emich.edu, everyone's favorite website. And just put a slash on the end of that and type veterans. So emich.edu/veterans.
Mike Wise, I want to thank you very much for joining me. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on this edition of EMU Today TV. And we will check you out real soon.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.